Okay. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I can't see you, but that's okay. I also just want to thank the PLCs and Mr. Leader who organized this. Thanks for all your hard work. Um, so I'm Cissy, and I'm excited to share some of my work, um, talk a little bit about design. I prepared a small presentation just so it's easier to visualize what I'm talking about since the nature of my work is very visual. So I hope this is fun and informative. So this is where I went to school. It's a little place called Providence, Rhode Island. I studied at the Rhode Island School of Design. And this is a pretty great photo of some of our buildings, but I basically moved from one white rock to another white rock in the States. So that was fun. But after our freshman year, we were able to choose a major and I studied industrial design. So what is industrial design? It's basically the practice of designing everyday objects, products, devices, and services. So everything around you is essentially designed by someone. It could be your cup, your mouse, maybe something you bought yesterday. I'm sure you've heard of Steve Jobs, the guy who wears a black turtleneck and round glasses, the former CEO of Apple. He really pushed Apple to become one of the most prominent companies and is a great example of how design can be and have an impact on people socially and culturally. But in reality, long before any product can be produced or sold on the market, this is kind of what designers see on a day-to-day basis. There's a lot of sketching, a lot of brainstorming, journey maps, and also 3D renderings. So usually it takes at least 1 to 2 years to develop any sort of product. So this is where I spent most of my time at school in the wood shop. I really loved making things with my hands. There was this huge satisfaction when I finished building something. So this is me on the lathe. If you don't know what a lathe is, it's basically a machine to turn wood. So you put wood in between these 2 points and you use this sharp tool to cut down the wood and kind of make it smooth as it's turning. So here I was making my legs for my very first chair. I didn't really sleep during this project, so I don't really know how I made it alive, but I did it. So this is the final product. And this is just one of the examples of what you can do with industrial design. And from here, I was kind of introduced to another class called Designing for Bigger Scale. So in the class, we learned a lot about exhibition design as well as retail design. And this class eventually led my interest to experiential design, which became my first internship and job. So experiential design is basically they use narratives to create human-centered interactions and environments to help shape a user experience. So more specifically, brands use this method to use immersive experiences to create an emotional connection with their customers. This is an event that we did for Old Navy on Women's Day. So the event was really meant to empower women and celebrate them while also promoting their Old Navy's new line of spring dresses. So the whole process is fairly complicated, but it includes creating a vision that matches their concept, searching for venues, creating floor plans, 3D models and renders. We invited editors and influencers, thinking about different activations like having a DIY perfume corner during the event, working with fabricators, and the list goes on and on and on. So as a team, we looked for venues, and then in my role, I created floor plans, 3D models, as well as renders. We also collaborated with artists to create these kind of large sculptural flowers. And then after everything is approved and ready, we go on site, and we're also part of the whole process to set up and just make sure everything is in place and how we vision it to be. So I'm not sure if everyone is super familiar with 3D rendering and modeling. So on the left here, you can kind of see I created a 3D model on the left here, and it's made in a program called Rhino. And here is a render, and you basically create like lifelike images. And this one is created in Keyshot. And there are a ton of different programs that you can learn and do these models in, but each industry standard is a little different. Here's another example of an event we did for Netflix, Spicy, which is an event that occurs before the Emmys. So Netflix really wanted to celebrate their original shows and create a showcase for all their producers, directors, actors, etc. To enjoy. So here you can see some of the renderings I did for the shows Ozark, Maniac, and Haunting of the Hill House, which was quite fun. We came up with the idea of like a rotating room where every time the door swings open automatically, a different room would show up. So any of these rooms. So it kind of had this surprise factor. But also during the whole process, we also have to keep in mind the budget. So not every show is going to be super glamorous. Here are some photos of the event. Sadly, I didn't get to go because it was in LA and I was designing from New York. And then I wanted to share some of my personal work. I love working with shapes. Some of my biggest inspiration comes from sculptures, but most of the time I still like to start with paper and pen, just drawing sketches and jotting notes. I also really love working with color. It's probably one of my favorite parts of the whole process. Different color combos can really create contrasting and unique vibes. I also want to share some of my favorite artists and designers. So on the top left, we have David Hockney. He is a British painter who was part of the pop art movement in the 60s. And he really loved using these like bright and bold colors, and that's what I love about his work. Here we have James Turrell. He's a lighting artist. Maybe some of you seen his work in Drake's music video Hotline Bling. I really love the way he plays with light and space. And then here we have Ettore Sottsass. He was an Italian architect and designer. He also founded the Memphis Group, which is known for their very fun and playful furniture. And yeah, that's it for the presentation. I hope you enjoyed. I will stop sharing my screen now.
Okay. Cissy, do you have time for questions?
Yes, of course.
Okay, does anyone have any questions for Cissy? Any questions about any of her work? Maybe how long she's in school? Any questions like that? We have a bit of a quiet class today, but I would like to know what led you to this pursuit? What led you to pursue this?
So I've actually kind of bounced from different field to field, but I think that it was quite hard to find something that I was interested in. But in school, we had modeling classes, so 3D modeling classes, and it was my first time working with 3D models and creating spaces actually. And from there, when I realized I could create different spatial environments, I became really interested because, any product lives within a space, and that space can make you feel um, a different emotional connection depending on how it is laid out and also the different colors. So after realizing I could do that, I did a lot of Googling and I found that this was a job. So that's what I did.
That's great. And what is your favorite piece that you've created? Do you have a favorite?
I do, but I think some of my favorite pieces are actually some products. So definitely the chairs that I've made in school, just because I worked on it like solely alone. A lot of the times, when you're working for a company, it's all group projects. So be ready for that. You'll never be working alone. So making the chairs was really something that I could own myself from beginning to end. I did all the process. So yeah, that's probably one of my favorite projects.
Very cool. Okay, any other questions for Cissy before she goes and builds some interesting things probably today? No, no questions? Anything else you want to let us know, Cissy?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much for coming. That was
For
wonderful.
having me.
Yeah, thank you very much. Wonderful.